What's up with the squad? Back with another video. Y'all see what's going down. Y'all know we've been following this whole situation for a while, been following this whole situation. So definitely seeing this video and definitely have to check it out. Definitely appreciate y'all for sending these videos. Much love to everybody. Let's get into it, y'all.
Boy, Benny, I'm not an alcoholic, but, I know some people who've gone to Alcoholics Anonymous. I enjoy a bourbon every once in a while, although I've had kids. I don't really drink that much anymore.
I don't drink at all.
You're already really tired at the end of the day. So who needs the hangover? But if you do have a hangover, and if you do have an alcohol problem, you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they tell you the first step. Step number one, and this has been proven out over generations, you must admit you have a problem. You must admit when you have been lied to. You must admit for every single problem to be righted, you must first say, well, it's my fault. I believed a lie. I did something bad. And that's happening right now with Derek Chauvin, where Derek Chauvin is now appealing his 40-year prison sentence for the murder of George Floyd. See, here's the thing. Derek Chauvin, whether you agree with him or don't agree with him or whatever, the facts are that he did not murder George Floyd. These facts are demonstrable. They're empirical. And he may well get his conviction overturned. In fact, the facts are on his side. What you're seeing right now is the official autopsy for George Floyd. This official autopsy says that there was no neck injury. Remember, the murder of George Floyd was because there was a knee on the guy's neck, and that caused him to suffocate and die, right? That's what you were told. The first step is admitting you have a problem, admitting that you have been lied to by the corporate press for an agenda. The official autopsy says no life-threatening injuries. I'm reading to you directly from it. No injuries of the anterior muscles, neck, or laryngeal structures. No scalp, soft tissue, skull, or brain injuries. Incision or subcutaneous dissection of the posterior and lateral neck, shoulders, back, flanks, and buttocks. Negative for any trauma. So they checked everywhere. There was no trauma. What did he have? He had a lethal amount of fentanyl into his system, and he was a long-time drug user.
That's crazy.
We know that, of course, via his arrest records and via his personal family history. Those are the facts, whether you like them or not. You don't have to like them to know that not only that, but clearly people lied to get on the jury pool in order to convict Derek Chauvin.
And that's why it's always important, like, even if y'all, like, I don't know what y'all got going on in your life, but I feel like, knowing what's going on, and obviously the drugs took over, but because drugs, we talking about fentanyl. First of all, don't do drugs. Secondly, I want to say is, it's just hard to say. It's definitely hard to say. It's a sad thing seeing. Respect the cops. I've told y'all before, my dad's a police officer, been a police officer for 24 years. And one thing about it is you want to be respectful. You want to be careful, and do what's needed to do. Have what you have already, or just keep your hands. If you feeling too nervous, just keep your hands on the steering on the dashboard. It's simple things. It's simple things. Or if you get caught, just listen to them. They're gonna detain you. They're gonna detain you. Just let them detain you. Especially if you ain't did nothing wrong. People gotta learn.
Who was the Minneapolis police officer who kneeled on the neck of George Floyd? We know this. On its face, the conviction should be thrown out because of clips like this.
To the issue of venue, Mormon also believes juror Brandon Mitchell lied during jury selection.
This conviction, like I said, hopefully just sparks some type of change.
Mitchell, who sat for a Fox 9 interview, never disclosed that he had attended an MLK anniversary march in Washington, D.C., wearing a, quote, get your knee off our necks, Black Lives Matter t-shirt.
Oh, okay. So he wore a Get Your Knee Off Our Necks BLM t-shirt. Do you think that would potentially poison a jury pool? A guy like that lies to get on the jury pool? There are convictions that are thrown out for far less, actually. Derek Chauvin is now seeking to overturn his conviction, murder of George Floyd, due to claiming that there is new evidence that shows that he did not cause Floyd's death, which is true. Minneapolis Police Department police officer Derek Chauvin is making another attempt to overturn the federal civil rights conviction of the 2020 murder of George Floyd. Free him, George Floyd dies of a drug overdose. He did. Those are the facts. I don't care what side of this argument you're on.
Sav said it,
You
y'all.
are not able to argue with the actual autopsy report, the medical report, and the guy's history. Arrest, family, and otherwise. Chauvin is sitting in jail to appease BLM terrorists. Chauvin is sitting in jail as a sacrifice.
And that's what I said in the last video. I was asking, like, you know, because I didn't really know. I'm just now learning, you know, the whole George Floyd thing. I never got into it, you know. I didn't go to the protests, and I definitely, I never owned a shirt, never owned anything that said BLM. I never went to anything BLM. And it's not because, you know, at that time it wasn't no agree or disagree or anything like that. I just didn't get myself into the stuff like that. But seeing what, you know, the whole BLM thing is and all this and not, it's not for me. You know, it's not for me. And it's definitely sad that people have to use these things, especially what I said about this officer. I asked why he was in prison for, you know, if it was a drug overdose. I don't know.
As a cultural
Crazy.
sacrifice to a movement of terrorists who demanded a pound of flesh. And what did we give him? This man. You can agree or disagree with what he did, and you can agree or disagree with his life. And I don't know much about Derek Chauvin, to be honest with you. But what I do know is that there is absolutely no facts or substantiation that said that he led to the death of George Floyd. In fact, it's the opposite. Derek Chauvin files a motion to attempt to overturn federal conviction. According to the records, Derek Chauvin says that Dr. William Schatzel of Topeka, Kansas, told him that he believes Floyd died of the complications due to a rare tumor called pharyngioma, caused a fatal surge of adrenaline. Former officer said that he had pleaded guilty to the federal charge if he had known about the offer to testify. He would have not pleaded guilty.
Send them drugs.
Ladies and gentlemen, Revolver News has a really fascinating breakdown of all of this, saying the Chauvin verdict and the dark, embarrassing truth about the American judicial system, where they break down how people lied their way onto the jury in order to push an agenda, which is, of course, the end of justice itself. Why do you think they always refuse to bring January 6 cases outside of Washington, D.C.? Because they know the jury pool in D.C. is steeped with people who've had their brains snapped, broken by the leftist mind virus and by Orange Man Ben. And so they refuse to carry out, because they cannot allow a sane jury pool. They must pull from people who are absolute lunatics. The Anglo-American common law that is supposed to save Derek Chauvin, and it failed. And it says a lot about the American system that we live in now. It's been 2.5 years since the former Minneapolis police officer was convicted of murder of the death
Bro, they gave
of
him
a drug
21
addict.
years? Hold on. 22-year sentence for this? And he overdosed? See, I told y'all I'm new. I did not know. That's
Lifelong
wild.
criminal George
This is
Floyd.
wild, y'all.
Chauvin, who is barely 1/10 into his 20-year prison sentence, is serving currently a 21-year federal sentence for depriving George Floyd of his civil rights. The Chauvin verdict is obviously a sick joke from the moment it happened, but even to the American right, the full realization of this fact seems to have taken over in the last few weeks. Tucker Carlson did an entire show on it. We'll play you an important clip from that. But the developments now are really quite remarkable. Now there is clear evidence from the autopsy
Right.
that said, there's no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation. Not only that, there are training manuals here for the Minneapolis.
But that's the thing though. Like if this dude get like overturned and stuff like that, he got to be safe too, because there's so many people that like look at those things, and like it's already. I know it's gonna turn into something like, and it shouldn't. Like it shouldn't turn into anything because of the simple fact of they're saying it was an overdose. So if they're saying that it's an overdose, why? This is crazy. It's crazy. It's sad. It's just crazy.
Minneapolis police that shows, and look at this. Here's a guy putting his knee on the neck of a perpetrator, right? A person that's being arrested. I mean, this seems to be, like exactly what he was trained to do. So, wait a second. Like, this doesn't make any sense to us. And here, of course, you can see a jury pool member. Here, this is the guy. This is the guy, the BLM hat on, with the "Get your knee off our necks" shirt on. This guy voted to convict Derek Chauvin. Well, how's that possible? And they go through these other jurors who also had very, very, like, here's, for instance, juror number 27, an immigrant who came to the United States more than a decade ago. He lived where George Floyd was killed, and he said, it could have been me. Well, okay. Is that person going to, like, I mean...
You're a white woman in the 50s, executive at a non-profit healthcare. 2 teenage boys. Juror discussed white privilege with the black co-worker. The co-worker's son is the same age as the juror's older teenager, but my white son, if he gets pulled over, doesn't have to fear. Anybody doesn't have to. That's the thing. When you get pulled over, if you feel in fear, just do what I said do. Put your hands. I grew up, knowing this. My dad's a police officer. I just said that, 24 years. Put your hands on the dashboard. Don't do no sudden. Be respectful. That's so important that a lot of these kids don't get these days. Be respectful. It is so, and I'm hoping and praying that these kids the teenagers watching this. Be respectful. They love when they see you smile, when you being respectful, even if they being y'all know the word. They can be all mean and I'm working on my cussing, but be respectful. Smile. Don't be a smarty, but just be respectful. And
wouldn't that bias a jury pool if you see yourself as the victim? Well, I mean, that seems pretty much obvious to me. But hey, you know what? What's obvious these days? What's obvious is that George Floyd did not die of asphyxiation, and that you have been fed a lie. Tucker Carlson covered this in a absolutely spectacular monologue. Have a listen. And we hope that Derek Chauvin gets a fair day in court. He's now asking, of course, for the overturning of his conviction. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hope, again, that the American judicial system is not completely and totally dead.
I was making sure that wasn't the same video. I didn't, because I react to a video of Tucker talking to somebody else going over this.
What's the autopsy on that? Yeah. Here's Tucker Carlson giving him an autopsy. Watch.
Significantly, they also sent a cop called Derek Chauvin to prison for more than 40 years. He would be the racist white devil who murdered George Floyd.
Hold on, more than 40 years?
But the question is, did he actually murder George Floyd? And the answer is, well, no. He didn't murder George Floyd. And we're not guessing about that. We know it conclusively thanks to a new court case now underway in Hennepin County, Minnesota. The case was brought by a prosecutor there called Amy Sweezy. She's suing her boss. So the case is not actually about George Floyd or Derek Chauvin, but it tells you an awful lot about both of them. In her deposition, which you should read, Amy Sweezy describes a conversation that she had with the county medical examiner, Andrew Baker, right after George Floyd died. Quote, "I called Dr. Baker early that morning to tell him about the case and to ask him if he would perform the autopsy on Mr. Floyd." Sweezy recalls all this under oath in the deposition. Quote, "He called me later in the day on that Tuesday, and he told me that there were no medical findings that showed any injury to the vital structures of Mr. Floyd's neck. There were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation." Oh.
So that just show you right there, y'all, that this it's sad. It's a sad world that we live in. It's a sad, and if y'all want to check the rest of this video out, make sure y'all check out Benny's channel. And I react to this, video. It'll be an end screen. But this stuff right here is crazy to me. You had an autopsy. It's telling you, oh, there's no strangulation. This didn't happen. It was fentanyl. You still have that. It's sad. It's a sad world we live in. It's a sad world we live in, and I don't like it at all. I definitely don't like it at all. Like I said, he does need to be careful when going. If it gets overturned, and I don't see why it wouldn't if it didn't happen that way. And it's definitely sad. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, watching, these reactions. Other videos you want me to check out, make sure y'all email me LifeWithRecklezz@yahoo.com or DM me on Instagram LifeWithRecklezz. Definitely much love to everybody. Catch y'all next one.